Who has told every lightning bolt where it should go, or seen heavenly storehouses laden with snow? That's a line from a popular worship song, and that's a line that was in my head this morning when I woke up. And I'm guessing that you can probably imagine the reason. It's because my yard, probably your yard, and most of all that you can see outside right now, at least if you're anywhere remotely close to where I am, is pretty much laden with snow. For example, my kids have a red wagon in the backyard, and I couldn't even tell you where it is back there right now. It is totally buried under the snow. And that mountain of the snow that I can see in the back corner of the lot, which comes from the snow plows as they clear all the snow off of the parking lot, is such a big snow hill, such a big snow mountain that, it looks like it could last us until June. So clearly those heavenly storehouses laden with snow have offloaded a lot of that snow onto the earth. I was going to make this video/podcast outside to kind of be an object lesson for what I was talking about, but I stepped out there and decided against that. I'm going to do it from the warmth of my home here. But that line from the song, "Who has seen heavenly storehouses laden with snow," is taken from a question in the Bible, in the book of Job. It's a question that God asks Job. Here's what God says in a little more fullness in these verses from Job chapter 38. God says to Job, "Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or seen the storehouses of the hail, which I reserved for times of trouble, for the days of war and battle? What is the way to the place where the lightning is dispersed, or the place where the east winds are scattered over the earth? Who cuts a channel for the torrents of rain, and a path for the thunderstorm, to water the land where no one lives, an uninhabited desert, to satisfy a desolate wasteland, and make it sprout with grass? Does the rain have a father? Who fathers the drops of dew? From whose womb comes the ice? Who gives birth to the frost from the heavens? When the waters become as hard as stone, when the surface of the deep is frozen." The answer implied from Job for all these questions is things like, well, not me, or I don't know, or I've never been there. And this is a part, what God just said in those verses, it's a part of God's longest speech in the whole Bible. And it's a very interesting speech because the whole thing is like a barrage of questions that God asks Job. And here's the context of God speaking to Job. Job's life has fallen apart. Everything has gone wrong for Job. And yet, Job knows that he is a righteous man who follows God and who obeys God. And after experiencing so much suffering in his life, Job has some questions that he wants answered. He wants his day in court with God. Job has questions. He wants God to give some answers. And I bet that we've all been there before. Job wants to put God on the stand, the witness stand, and question him like a prosecutor. He wants to say, justify how you treated me, God, because it doesn't make sense and it doesn't seem fair to me. And amazingly, Job sort of gets what he wants. He wanted to have his day with God, his day in court. Well, God does show up. But God does not answer Job's questions. God says instead, you have questions? Let me ask you some questions. And one after the other, God asks Job questions like the ones that I read a moment ago. Questions like, do you make the grass grow? Do you send out the lightning? Can you tame all the great beasts of the earth? Do you tell rain where to fall? I wonder what you think about this response from God to Job? Do you think it's fair? Job is suffering, and God just piles a bunch of questions onto him? The interesting fact is that for hundreds, for thousands of years, believers have found the book of Job to be deeply comforting. Job doesn't get the answers that he wants, the ones that he wanted before he talked to God. But God basically takes Job by the hand and says, I am so much bigger, Job. I'm so much bigger than the thoughts you've been thinking. Now, that might not sound satisfying at first, but on a deep level, it's comforting to remember, be confronted with the fact that after all the chaos in our life kind of washes away and moves to the side, to remember that God is so much bigger than everything we've been dealing with, everything that has been filling our heads. I remember talking to a very smart man, an older guy. He had a PhD in philosophy. He'd written several books. And he said, when I'm feeling down, sometimes I'll put on Bach's Mass in B minor, a beautiful piece of music, and I'll read through Job. And it brings me back to who I am and who God is, and it reminds me, God is God, and I'm not. Today is Wednesday, the first day of Lent. Lent is a time of letting go. And that doesn't mean just letting go of chocolate or letting go of caffeine. It means letting go of thinking we have total control of our own lives. Because we don't. It means remembering what Job learned, that God is God and we're not. And it is much, much better that way. So blessings to you as we enter the season of Lent, and we will see you again soon.